It sounds probably silly, but I think honestly I was born that way, and I just never really thought about it as like option A or option B. It was just like, this is who I am. I'm an artist. When I'm working on art, it's like everything kind of feels right. It's like my therapy, and I really sink into the work that I'm doing.
We had 7 kids, and they always found the things that they really interested them. And so ever since I was little, like you, I always wanted to draw, so they found me art instructors all over the place. And this one everyone did a still life. It's very still.
It's very still.
Like, it's very flat, but that's okay, I still like it.
Way back when. I think the funny part about this is like...
My mom's an artist, so she would bring along watercolors and pencil crayons and take us into the back mountains and sketch from like when we were like 6.
I was also a really creative speller, as my mom would like to call it. My mom's an artist. Lots of people think that I might follow my mom and become an artist. My 2 things I like to do are art and rhythmic gymnastics. Rhythmic gymnastics is when you have ribbon, rope, hoop, ball, and clubs, and free.
Yeah, she's definitely one of the most creative people I know. She's one of those people that just kind of like exudes creativity, like from what she wears, which is like, these flowy silk fabrics that look like the rainbow, to like just the way her mind works. Like, she's a very, very creative person. Yeah, from like being our instructor to our mom to our art teacher, she had a lot of influence on us growing up. And yeah, I think she always had this philosophy that the best way to learn was like through a paintbrush or a pencil and just exploring and kind of like looking in your own backyard. So science class wasn't like necessarily reading a book, but it was rather going outside and learning about actual plants and kind of like, yeah, a totally different environment to learn in. I find that like as soon as I go into those new environments, images start flooding into my mind of like potential paintings I could do or new series of art, and I find that that's a big source of inspiration for sure. With the landscapes, when I'm like kind of trying to create what that final product is going to look like, I make sure that I'm not thinking about it as mountains and trees and sky and clouds, but instead I'm kind of thinking about it from shapes and lines. So with my process with this painting, with Elevate, I thought a lot about kind of like dissecting what the finished product was. So instead of saying, okay, these lines are going to be a mountain, I was thinking, if that mountain had kind of a form behind it that created it, like almost like the structures of the rock and how all of those pieces add together, I tried to dissect it into creating kind of like almost building blocks to create something, So we talked about, that it was important that the art would be translated onto the shoes. So there was like certain format that it needed to be done in so that there was enough pattern to kind of like translate. So I started thinking a lot about work that would translate well on to a pair of shoes. So like cool color schemes, kind of like geometric lines. So I wanted to make sure that the landscape was a Vancouver iconic kind of visual. So I thought of Black Tusk because it doesn't look like the mountains that we see from like North Vancouver or something. I think a lot of it is just kind of in my mind too. It's like I'm not trying to capture a specific photo, but more like a vibe. Yeah. There's a certain side to it that I struggle with because it's very vulnerable and you kind of get a chance to see your weakness or your insecurities in your work. But then you also get to see the strengths. So you get to see like you know, the lack of limitations, that you can just like create anything you want. And there's certain works that I'll look at the end and I'll be like, wow, I made that. Like,